Best intentions. We had a whole issue with um, things not going right, and so we're a little bit behind. However, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Erudition Network Black History, Interactive Black History and Knowledge Session. We have not been able to actually be on for the last few weeks because I had COVID and my family had COVID, and unfortunately, it took away my voice and kind of took us out. And so we had to do some things different. Actually, everything's a little different. This setup that I'm doing right now is a little different. You may see me actually move around during this episode, which I don't typically do. I just sit here and go over things with you. But I wanted to change some things about how we interact and what it is that we're doing. So if we give some time for some of the folks to get on and actually see what's happening. Hey, Sean Anthony, good to see you. Good to see you. I see that Matthew was in here a little bit earlier, tagging in. I'm going to try to send a notification since we started out a little bit later to a couple of people to let them know, hey, we're live and we're here. But I want to tell you something. You know, here we are. If you're new to this program, you know, we do this program, or, you know, my wife does one on Monday. I do this one on Thursday. We do special programs as they come up. But we do these programs primarily because to inform, to educate, to provide some understanding and knowledge to those who are out here who need it. You know, I don't often brag on myself, but I'm going to tell you something. For me, I have spent the greater part of my life heavily entrenched in history, world history, Black history. If there's some historical matter out there, I'm that's of interest, I'm studying it and I'm involved. And I do this show on Thursdays because I want people to be engaged. I want people to be involved because it's so important that we get our people involved in history and knowledge. I'm going to shift around a little bit here. As I said, this is more interactive than it usually is because I really want us to do something different. My little bandstand here. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a lot going on over the last, I guess, two or 3 weeks. As I said, I'm sending something out to let people know that we're live. But we've had a lot going on because look at what's going on in the news. Recently, I came across the thing where Kanye West was pushing a fashion line, telling people that white lives matter. And I saw a whole lot of people online, some people who are friends of mine, who were like, hey, you know what, man? They do matter. You can't be mad at what he said. I will curtail some of the responses that I gave to some of those people because some of it got a little heated over the last few days online. Because that is lunacy. If Black folks weren't out here having their children, their relatives, and folks killed, then there would be no need for us to push the idea that Black lives matter. There would be no point for us to sit here and argue these things. But the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, we know the hypocrisy of what they're saying. We know that there are lies being perpetrated and things that are being said that are misleading our people. Hey, Mike, I just saw that you came on. Welcome back. Hey, let me know if we're a little ashy out there. And I promise you, we will change real quick because it's important for what we're going to talk about tonight. Because as I'm seeing some of this feedback, I see I look a little bit crazy out here. It looks like the feed is kind of acting crazy on one of my monitors. But I want to make sure that that's not an issue. Yeah, we're having some kind of issue with our feed and monitor right now. So I tell you what, because we're doing this interactively, and I want you to learn tonight. We're gonna change some things real quick, live as we go, because it's important. I do not want people lost. So give me just a second here. I'm gonna take myself off camera, and I'm gonna do this. All right. Hey, let me know if you hear me, if everything's good to go. Move that drink over for me, please. over this way. So if you understand that we have real life, real time issues that go on, whatever you try to do, a online program. So I'm just gonna be real with you. I used to get upset with these kind of things. It would anger me really bad, and I would get to a point where I would say to myself, man, why has it got to be so messed up and all of this? I'm not there anymore. So we're here right now to make sure we're teaching today, and I don't care how we do it. We're going to get it done. I see that the internet was ramping and acting crazy. You know, we had some power issues here earlier today. That's going to happen, but it's not going to deter us from talking about what we're going to talk about tonight. Anyway, getting back to what we're saying. You know, there's been so many things going on in the public and everywhere. And, you know, I was sitting around thinking about how badly these things, you know, these things were, they were going on, right? What is the historical issue with it? And why? And why is it bothering me so bad? Recently, there was the issue with Lizzo. I know some of you out there are going to get mad at me talking about Lizzo, but I'm going to talk about Lizzo because here's the thing. Everybody was talking about Lizzo and how Lizzo was using this crystal flute, and everybody, you know, and I watch people like lose it because Lizzo was twerking, or because Lizzo has been controversial in the way she presents herself. But here's the thing. That wasn't the issue that anybody should have had with Lizzo. The issue was that Lizzo was given James Madison's flute to play. And very few people sat around and asked a very important question. Other than being the president of the United States, he was the person, the guy, right, who sat down to write, right, the Constitution, the drafting of the Constitution of the United States, that said that you were not even a whole person. So to have a person play a flute or an instrument, right, from a person that was that repressive was crazy, was loony. And whose idea was it to have this black celebrity to go and play this slave master's flute? But that never came up as the issue. All of the issues that were brought up had to do with Lizzo's controversial behavior. And it's because we don't tend to know our history. It's because we don't care to look and ask the questions that are most important and pertinent. And unfortunately, what happens is we get lost in okie doke. Now, this is an interactive session. If you don't agree with my assessment of that, hey, by all means, you can go on, you can disagree with me, you can come on and make a comment in the comments and say, Eddie, I completely disagree with your assessment. I welcome it. But I have been saying for quite some time now, before I took ill and for over a year and a half, the importance of being erudite. The importance of being erudite is lost. It has become lost on us. Having an understanding, knowing who we are historically, knowing where our place is in the grand scheme of things. You also have these stories out here. I spoke a little bit earlier about Kanye West. And we look at Kanye, right? And we understand that Kanye is lost. However you want to call Kanye West, he's obviously lost in the idea of what it means to be a black person in the United States. But here's the thing. Everybody's getting mad at Kanye because of the entire Kanye wanted this whole thing where he white lives matter, he's a Trump supporter, he's a MAGA, whatever. I don't care about Kanye's politics. The issue that we're facing with Kanye West is the thing that we do. Again, it comes down to a historical standpoint. We don't know what it means to have a driver. We've lost the idea of what it means to have propaganda. We are completely behind the idea of what it means to be led by the wrong people. Kanye West is nothing new in the grand scale of the African American experience in America. That is just the fact. And unfortunately, many of us don't even know anymore what a driver is. What was the purpose of a driver? I'm going to leave out there to you guys who are out here, who are watching. And again, I'm going to apologize if you're getting crappy internet right now that are coming through, but the message is still a message. Rather you see me on the screen or not is not necessarily the importance to me. It is the idea that you get this message. We are in a situation right now where we have lost the idea of what a driver is, who a driver is. A driver's only purpose in slavery was to support the master, was to suppress the slave, mind, body, soul, to suppress you, to keep you on a path, to make you see things a certain way. They would use physical abuse. They would use psychological attack. They would use whatever was given to them to use to get you to follow what the master, what the person, the slave owner felt to be important. That was their goal. That was their job. And they did it very well. They did it very well. And here today in society, we have lost the idea of what that driver really means. We've lost the idea of why understanding who that driver is important to us historically. If you go and read the slave narratives, because I always tell you all to go read the slave narratives. I sat down today and I was talking to my sons about some of the slave narratives, particularly a narrative from the Virginia slave narratives, in which a man who had been a slave driver, and later, because a lot of these narratives were collected 40, 50, 60 years after slavery, he was homeless on the street. He had no ability to interact with his own community because people knew what he had done. They knew who he had been. And they were not receptive to the idea of this slave driver. So he unfortunately became homeless, destitute. And when interviewed by one of the interviewers for the narratives, he begged for money. And they said, well, we'll give you a dime. I guess a dime went a long way back then to give your story. And that man talked. He talked for over an hour, telling this man his story and how he had been a vicious slave driver, how he had slept with the women, how he had disposed of some of the kids, how he led people to be sold. He confessed all of these horrible things that he'd done. And now, when slavery was over, when that job was no longer viable, he couldn't go home. He couldn't go back to the very community that he had basically destroyed. It is unfortunate, but it is a fact that we still have drivers out here. It is unfortunate that we have to go through that, that we have to see that. But it happens